Right, YouTube, it's Shadow King Natsu. I'm here to do my review of Keijo. Now, yeah, it's been a. I originally watched Keijo when it first came out, and I'm really surprised that I did not review. I might have mentioned it in one of my earlier videos. Um, but the fact that Keijo seems like a series that's made for people like me, I'm really stunned and somewhat ashamed of myself that I haven't reviewed it earlier. But better late than never. So, Keijo is a sports manga slash anime series created by Daiichi Soriyomi that focuses on the fictional Japanese sport of Keijo, which is the same thing as the title and sometimes translated as Hip Whip Girl, that focuses on a all female sport where all these girls stand on these platforms inside a pool, floating over a pool, and their goal is to knock each other out of the off the platform uh, using only their breasts and their buttocks. So yeah, it's kind of fan servicey, but it's tame compared to what most animes get to. Um, and it does have some rules. You can only use your breasts and your butts to knock out your opponents. You can't uh, cling onto the platform with your hands. You have to use your feet, which does add a bit of competitive challenge to it. Now, the series mostly focuses on our protagonist, Nozomi Kamanashi, I believe that's what her name was. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, her name is Nozomi Kamanashi, who aspires to be a Keijo player after seeing the some of the more elite professional players play it, and also wanting it to use the money that you would get from playing these Keijo events due to it partially being having gambling ties to it. She wants to use that money to help fund her family, which which adds both somewhat of a selfish goal, but also has good intentions as well. And she has a character. She's very energetic, very driven. She has a very strong passions for the sport, and she does show a lot of potential due to her experience with being a gymnast, which allows her to be flexible, athletic, agile. And as for her, that's how she does well in Keijo. Her attacks seem to be focused on a bit of speed, but mostly on power, which part of what makes Keijo interesting is that it has a lot of different styles of fighting with these in the sport. There's the infighters like Nozomi, who rely more on the power of their strikes from their breasts and their buttocks to overpower their opponents. There's the outfighters, who don't really have the strength but compensate with the speed. And there was a third class that's I'm quickly forgetting, but no, that's not. But it's not too important. There's also other characters like. Hold on. I'm sorry that I'm bad at remembering names. Sayaka Miyata, who's, like I said, is one of those outfighters that, due to their body type, they can't really rely on power, though they rely more on the speed to overcome their enemies. And she's arguably the fastest of the Keijo players. And we also have characters like Kazune Albo, who doesn't seem all that special as a fighter, but does have a special ability allowing her to copy the breast and butt attacks of her other opponents. So yes, there are, like I said, there are special attacks like you expect from a typical anime. And then there's also Non Toyoguchi, who is more of the defensive counter. Oh yeah, the counter fighters. That's what it was called. Who relies on more of the defensive powers. Now, there's also other side characters, all different other personalities. Miyu Kasaki, who due to being a lesbian, likes to flirt with all the girls. Uh, Hanabi Kawi, who's um, also an elite member of the group, but she's not. I mean, she doesn't trait the elitism into her head. She's kind of nice to the other players, and so many others. All coming from having different styles, having different body types to take advantage of them. You have normal style girls, petite girls who use their speed, muscular girls who are a bit more for infighting, and so many others. And it's not just the fan service parts that appeals to a lot of the fans. It's also the personality of the characters, and also a lot. The animation quality is very fluid, very kinetic. You feel the very punch of all these attacks from the breasts and the asses of the girls, and it also helps develop relationships because they're in a special school called the Setiochi School for Keijo, where they learn to train for the sport, and that makes it interesting as these girls still have something to learn. They can interact with each other, build off teamwork, and you'll get a lot of episodes dedicated to that, such as the girls. There was one episode where they had to practice with the volleyball, teaching them with teamwork, and they had to coordinate themselves using their and hit the ball with only their breasts and their butts. Yep. And there's also the bit of the rivalry school, whose name I'm currently forgetting, and I can't be bothered to check right now because I wanted to get to this video as quickly as possible because I got some other things to do. That was featured in the last arc of the anime, and might be the last part of the manga, because unfortunately the manga got discontinued due to the authors feeling like his writing and artistic skills not being up to snuff, if I believe that's what his reason was. Although I strongly disagree with that because I think that was I think Keijo was a really, really great anime. And if you love it for that, you'll also love the anime references. It's referenced things like Attack on Titan. I believe it's referenced Dragon Ball. So many other things like that. And it's also taken the forms of like their special attacks. Like Nozomi, signature move is the vacuum butt cannon, which allows the twirling of her hips and the wind pressure to create this powerful winds of vacuums that can either, well, undress and embarrass the opponent for the time or knock them out. But there's also a bit of a risk to it because this was originally created by another Keijo player who suffered huge damage between her spine and her hips, and thus she wasn't able to play Keijo anymore, and she had to resign herself to become an instructor. So there are some bits of character deaths and a bit of interesting dynamics. So all in all, I would say that Keijo is a really great anime, and I really would wish that the author would continue the story. But it's for now, it's just gonna be one of those shames that happen. Like we're not gonna get a season 2 of Keijo, and we're not gonna get a Rosario Vampire anime reboot in the near future, unless an anime studio picks it up and reboots it. But all in all, I found Keijo to be very entertaining. Highly recommended. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. So, have you watched Keijo? Tell me what you thought, and I'll catch you guys later.